Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Heute Abend gibt es ja noch die Premiere. Und wir haben ja nicht nur den Mann, der sich das alles ausgedacht hat und gedreht hat, heute hier zu Gast, sondern ich glaube, ein paar Schauspieler, auf die wir uns alle gemeinsam sehr freuen, vor allen Dingen, dass sie gemeinsam vor der Kamera gestanden haben. In diesem Fall nochmal ganz herzlich willkommen, offiziell im Namen von Sony Pictures Germany. Please welcome Shannon McIntosh. Wir machen weiter mit einem Mann, der Berlin liebt und ein absoluter Superstar ist. Please welcome Brad Pitt. Wir machen weiter mit einem weiteren Superstar. Please welcome Leonardo DiCaprio. The one and only Quentin Tarantino. The wonderful Margot Robbie. Last but not least, producer David Heyman. Welcome.
I'd done a little bit of research on the Madsen family, but just before I was getting ready to do a deep dive and really start doing the research and really learning the whys and wherefores and learning more about them than I knew a lot, but I was going to now learn a whole lot more. But even the idea, I mean, the movie, you don't hear Charlie talk, but I wrote some scenes where you actually see Charlie. We shot him, we just didn't make the movie. But even to try to get to know Charles Manson enough that I could write his vocal rhythms. So I could write his speech patterns and write the way he talks. I was like, do I want to do that? Do I want to let these guys into my head like that? Do I want to know Charles Manson so well that I can write his speech patterns? And 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I don't think so. And so I put it away and did something else. But then the material that I wrote, I liked so much that it just kind of, after that project was over, it gravitated me back to it. And then in between projects, I just kind of pushed the rock up the hill a little bit further.
Well, it's a lot about his growing up and his memories of being a child in Hollywood and driving around Los Angeles. And when you see the marquees in the theaters, I mean, those are things that were actually there. And when he was a kid, those were there. And the radio, which is a backdrop, KHJ, are also part of his memories of driving around Hollywood and listening to the sounds of KHJ.
Well, I think nobody else could make this film but Quentin. You know, it's got his singular voice. It is, as Shannon said, and as you indicated, an incredibly personal film. It's just so full of life and originality and freshness, and really it is a film that could be made by no other. You feel that in every frame. You know, Quentin brings such enthusiasm to making films, and it's a great pleasure to work on his films because of that. And you can see that enthusiasm in every frame of this film.
I knew I always wanted to reach out to my idols, Quentin being at the top of the list, at one point in my life, and let them know how much their movies meant to me and affected, well, my career choice and my taste in movies. And I wrote Quentin a letter, but I held off for a couple of years. I didn't feel like I was really at the stage of my career where I felt like I was ready to reach out. I didn't think I was a good enough actor yet. And then I watched the first cut of I, Tonya, and I thought, okay, I feel like I've hit the point where I'm happy with my acting now. Now I'm going to reach out to my idol. So I wrote him a letter, and fortuitously, it was great timing. It timed out nicely, and we met up. We spoke about Sharon. We spoke about the film. I got to read the script when it was done, and here we are.
I just love the way he constructed this story of two sort of voyeurs, two guys that are on the outskirts of Hollywood, and giving us this incredible backstory of who these men were beforehand. The second Brad and I stepped on set, we had this incredible history together that we implicitly and I think instinctually knew. So we're able to infuse all that in sort of 2 or 3 days of their life, where you don't tell a full story, but we had this sort of silent understanding of our past. And that's what's so amazing about a journey like this, is trying to tell a story in a condensed time period like that, but all of us having that understanding of our own history.
Quentin chose to tell the story of I guess, filmmaking process, television process through a stuntman, an actor at that time, which was much closer. But we all here, sitting here, rely on our friends specifically to survive this thing, to enjoy this thing, to negotiate our way through it. There's a lot of downtime, more downtime than actual action time, And so it was, I mean, it was pretty automatic for Leo and I, because we could just step right into that. And like Leo says, the backstory, I mean, there's probably 2 movies of prequels and backstory that Quentin laid out for us. So it was good fun. Right now, it's a really interesting time because you see the cinema experience shrinking, you see streaming exploding. The positive of that is we see this wealth of talent that's been on the sidelines all this time, this wealth of talented directors and writers and actors, and really gutsy storytelling is being embraced. So that is really, really fun to watch. What happens to the communal experience? We'll see. I don't think it'll go away, but it's certainly in a shift right now. But we go with the times. We go with the changes, and it's all right with me.
I don't think it can ever go away. People will always, I believe, want to go out to movie theaters and have that experience. It is the greatest art form in the world. I'm honored to be a part of it. And as Brad mentioned, we're entering an era where we're inundated with not only content and information, but new, amazing, stories are being told. The format of which remains to be seen, whether the 2-hour, 3-hour format will stay intact or whether things are going to be 7-part series because, there's so much content. But I don't think we're ever going to lose that communal experience of being able to go out to a theater together and feel the energy of a movie we're excited about. And that's why this movie was so incredible and awesome, and I'm honored to be a part of because it's a big budget, fantastic art film, and that we may see a lot less of. But that's why you guys got to keep going to the theaters and supporting films like this.
Well, I mean, one of the things I like about driving with music, I'm sure everybody in the room has this feeling of you kind of feel like you're in the opening credit sequence of your own movie. When you get when you can actually go kind of fast and not stop and start, and you pick the right song, you just it feels like it's the Quentin movie, and this is the opening credits, and what's going to happen next is going to be a big adventure. And so I wouldn't say that this is my favorite song for that, but a song that works really well because they used it that way in the movie was Blondie's "Call Me." The way they used it, Richard Gere, driving through Beverly Hills to call me. He was like, that was a great opening credit sequence.
I actually have a playlist that's songs that have been in Tarantino films. I listen to that a lot. You pick a good song. You pick a great song.
I'm tuned to one channel, and that's 40s Junction, 40s music. Really boring.
Really?
Yeah.
I got a friend who...
You're trying to swing.
Yeah, right.
I know of someone who listens only to classical and then watches everyone on the street, and it's like comedy for him.
When I'm in traffic, I listen to classical.
Ah.
Calm.
For the LA traffic.
Yeah.
I listen to stand-up comedy. That's my gig.
That's his thing.
We were blessed that we were able to shoot it in Hollywood and all around Los Angeles area, and that we got the incentive and that people were really on board. It's a very location-based movie, so we moved around a lot. Very rarely were we in any place. We started off for 2 weeks in one place, and then we were on the move the whole time. But we had a wonderful team who got it set up, our location, production designer, and everyone was really very fluid about getting it done and worked their butts off.
We wouldn't be able to do what we did next year. It'll be a little too much changed. We wouldn't be able to do it exactly as we did even next year. Even as it was, things were changing during the shoot. So it was like we were on a bridge that was on fire, burning behind us. And we were just trying to get our stuff, and then the bridge would go away. And it was kind of that way through the whole 100 days of shooting.
You got to understand, Quentin is a purist, so that means no CG. We're going to get everything in camera. So to see Hollywood Boulevard, even the stretch we did, what did we shoot? 4 blocks? They dressed. And then we came back a month or so later to do a few more blocks to piece that whole thing together so we could get the street. But what was stunning to see was the depth of detail that only comes from Tarantino. And that is not just the bus stop benches were ads from that time, but then even in the store windows, things that you'll never see, the pamphlets some radio show of that time or books of that time. It was that deep in detail, and we just go whizzing by. But it was really pretty special to see Hollywood Boulevard transform that way.
I mean, it's funny because you do a Western, you're making a period film, but for some reason, I mean, I know it's a period film compared to if I was making a movie that takes place today, but you know, you go to a Western town, it just doesn't seem, it didn't seem as much of a, it just seems controlled in a strange way, where this is close enough to our time, but it's also incredibly different, and so it creates a different kind of detail. I gotta say, one of the things after doing a 40s World War II movie and 2 Westerns back to back, the fact that I could just have a character turn on the radio and just enjoy a song for 10 minutes was just, it was almost orgasmic for me. I couldn't, it was just so much fun. Oh my God, I can turn the radio on again. They can listen to records again. I can have rock and roll in my movies again. It's been a decade since I've had rock and roll in my movies. Unless I did it anachronistically, which I did. You know, so the fact that characters could just like Godardian groove to records was fantastic. I just kind of so I kind of worked on the film in between projects, and I just kind of thought that was just kind of the way it was going to be. And then after, and I thought maybe this might be my last movie, but then I started writing at this time, and then like, oh hey, the horses just ran away. All right, so I was I guess I'm going to finish it. Sergio Leone is kind of the father of what I guess what I would call modern movies. Both his use of the way he used music, but even more importantly, the way he put it together and then cut to music. That was not really done before. People would do soundtracks, and even when they put like, you know, Rock Around the Clock or something in a movie, they wouldn't cut it to the movies. I mean, every once in a while it would sync up in a neat way, but it's not cut to it in this way, partly because they didn't know what the music was going to be until after the film was over. Well, Leone had Morricone write the music before the movie. But also, the other thing about Leone is I like the idea that, you know, him and a lot of the spaghetti Western guys, they started out as film critics, very similar to the way that the French New Wave did. And no one really loved movies more than those guys. And they loved Westerns, and I love the idea that they loved Westerns, but they knew they were making Western movies, so they wanted to do it their way, and I love that. And I also love the idea of thinking cinematically, thinking in terms of set pieces, the way Leone did, where it's like an 8-minute cinematic set piece that's just completely onto its own, or a 15-minute or a 12-minute. I mean, if you look at Once Upon a Time in the West, I mean, that is just a collection of set pieces, just connected to each other. Well, I love that. I love set pieces. To me, that's like, you know, that's when you know that you're sitting in a movie theater, you know, and then the film is just taking you over. And then you're like you're thinking Wolf of Wall Street, the Quaalude.
Right.
Sequence is fucking amazing, all right? And it's like 15 minutes, right at the end of a 3-hour movie, and I never want it to end.
Thank you so much. We love your movies, and we love you guys being here in Berlin. Thank you so much, David, Margot, Quentin,
Thank you.
Leonardo,
Thank you,
Brad,
Megan. Feel so welcome.
Shannon. Vielen Dank für Ihre Fragen. Have a wonderful premiere tonight. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.